Salam, everyone. That means peace. Peace be with all the good people out there. I hope you all are doing well. It's good to be with you. So we're going to continue our series, which we are basing on the article written by Dr. Alemseged Abbay, The Historical Orbit of Eritrea's Agony. That's the title of the article or journal. You can find it online. And you can read it for yourself. It's a very interesting and thought-provoking article. So Dr. Alemseged has taken us through a journey, an interesting journey, an interesting trip back in time. He took us through Italy to the Italian colonial era, discussing the aggression and the misery that the Italians put the Eritreans through. You know, this apartheid situation. We usually hear about South Africa's situation, but we don't hear about Eritrea's situation. We left Italy. Since Italy, we finished with them. We got into Eritrea's agony, or at least the start of its agony with Ethiopia. And we talked about the federal era in the previous video. If I'm not mistaken, we talked about the federal era and how Eritrean people became subject to cultural chauvinism. By who? By the Amhara elites. By the Amhara elites. At that time, Haile Selassie was the emperor. We made it to the post-federal era. We did not start reading it. That's what we're going to talk about today. Any quick notes that I have, or quick comments? Nothing I have to say. Tigrinya, for those of you who want to learn Tigrinya, I have begun Tigrinya lessons. They are uploaded at the latest every other day. So for those of you that want to learn Tigrinya or are interested in those videos, they're on the channel. I hope you enjoy them. I myself needed to learn Tigrinya for myself, and whatever I learn, I like to share. We in the diaspora, at least I, and maybe others, I don't know how many, we have fallen short when it comes to the language, and it's not good to fall short. We all belong to different tribes, of course, but there are languages that keep us together as a people. Tigrinya is one of them. Amharic is the other one. Why? That's another question. We want to talk to each other and we want to understand each other. That's the purpose. So let's talk a little bit. I had some time to make a video about this. So before anything, I begin in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. I praise and I glorify him as he ought to be praised and glorified. So the post-federal era, that's the title of the section in the journal. To the agony of Eritreans, assimilationist forces were unleashed to stamp out their particularities. Certainly the processes of political centralization and Amharanization, italicized, Amharanization, that Eritreans were subjected to were not exceptions to the rule. Again, certainly the processes of political centralization and Amharanization that Eritreans were subjected to were not exceptions to the rule. They were common policies of modernizing multi-ethnic empires, such as the Russian Empire, which pursued Russification, and the Ottoman Empire, which came up with Turkification, along with political centralization. Nonetheless, the all too familiar policy of modernizing multi-ethnic empires did not fare well with the Eritreans. They suffered from a sense of alienation and betrayal. Dispirited, Tedla himself, Tedla Bairu, we spoke about him in the last video. He was quite the character. Dispirited, Tedla himself left the country in 1966, 5 years after the revolution. after the start of the revolution, or less, because it started at the end of 61. Dispirited, Tedla himself left the country in 1966. And to the Eritreans who had the Wuchale Treaty and the narrative of being sold to the Italians in their collective memory, annulling the federation was a second betrayal. So the federation being annulled, meaning we're not going to get rid of this federation, you guys are with us permanently, that was a second betrayal. So they got betrayed we got betrayed by Menelik, we got betrayed again by the Ethiopians. Same tribe it happened to be, the Amhara tribe. The elites. Our issue is not with the average Getacho, you know. The problem is with the system. That's the issue that we have. So the then school-aged children still sustain a bitter memory of the Amhara assimilationist policy. This is true. At that time, our parents or elders or the generation that came before us, they were school children, and they were subject to. They witnessed this, and those of them, because some of them are younger than others, so they don't remember. Some don't remember as much. Some didn't go through as much at the time. But those who were old enough to perceive and be conscious of what was going on, they've got stories to tell, and they still have this kind of trauma. Some worse than others. Some less, some worse. My grandpa was in a jail run by the Haile Selassie regime, if you want to call it that. And but surprisingly, my grandpa, maybe not so surprisingly, since he was an educated man, he didn't show any hatred towards Ethiopians. His issue was only with Haile Selassie. My grandpa said that if they did not, my grandpa was a Blian man from Karan, lowlander. But he still said, my grandpa was not an Arabist, which is something I appreciate. One of my uncles, he said that my grandpa used to say that we're not Arabs. We're not Arabs. He would say we're not Arabs because we're not. Others want to Arabize us, or want us to be Arabized. My grandpa was pure, African, Eritrean, or to him, Eritrea, Ethiopia, we're all the same people, because ethnically we're the same. Our politics is just the situation, the issue. So he never taught us to have any grudges against Ethiopia or anything like that. Anyone in my family who has that, that's their own thing. It has nothing to do with my grandpa. It's cool to have a grandpa like that because he teaches you to be fair. So he taught us that we're not Arabs. He taught us that I didn't hear that because we didn't get to that during his lifetime, he and I. But I was told that he used to say we're not Arabs, and he also said that our issue, this is his words, if the Ethiopians, meaning the government, the higher, if they left us alone, we would not have left. That's what he said. My grandpa had no issue with Ethiopia. He knows the story. He wasn't a foolish man running his life on emotions. That's not how it worked for him. For others, yes. For him, no. He was too smart for that. Okay. The then school-aged children still sustain a bitter memory of the Amhara assimilationist policy. I was exposed to one of them, I being the author. I was exposed to one of them on June 6th, 2016. As I lined up in a store in downtown Silver Spring, Maryland, en route to Hungary to present this paper at the 4th African Studies Congress on June 9th and 10th, which was held at the University of Pexi. A woman in her mid to late 60s was ahead of me. She turned around and started talking to me in Amharic. From her accent, I knew she was a Tigrinya speaker. There are differences in you can tell when someone has an accent. When they speak Amharic, when they speak certain language, you can tell that there's a Tigrinya accent. Just like in English, if someone speaks English, you can kind of tell where they're from because their language has an effect on their accent in English. So he's Dr. Alemseged says that he knew she was a Tigrinya. I knew she was a Tigrinya speaker. Indeed, she told me that she was from Asmara. I flattered her on her impeccable Amharic and asked how she managed to command it. Raising her index finger, she accusingly shouted, "School!" She shouted "school," in apparent reference to the principal agency of Amharanization. So she shouted "school." That's how she learned it. So, Amharanization. Let's read a bit more. This video will be quite short. So, raising her voice even more and wagging her index finger up in the air, she spewed her profound anger at what the Eritrean youth had to go through some 6 decades ago. She spewed anger at what the Eritrean youth had to go through some 6 decades ago. As if it all happened a day earlier. As if it happened yesterday. We started studying in Tigrinya. Then came Lema Begabeya. Lema Begabeya. So Lema Begabeya, Gabeya I believe means store, but let's see what the footnote says. Lema is a typical Amhara male name, and Gabeya is market in Amharic. Lema Begabeya. She used Lema Begabeya, which was a very basic children's book that the Ministry of Education used to publish in Amharic and distribute in primary schools all over Ethiopia, as a euphemism for Amharic. She presented the book as if it had a life of its own, as if it had a life of its own, with its own feet and mind, which trespassed their schoolyard, intruded into their classrooms, and violated their routine academic life. She treated this book as if it was a human being that came and intruded and oppressed them. She feminized the book to further berate it. In addition to her tone of deep anger and the wagging of her index finger, the woman condensed the entire assimilationist educational system, math, social studies, science, etc., which was all in Amharic, into only one silly children's book. She condensed everything into one silly children's book, Lema Begabeya, Lema in the market. Such grievances, still fresh among Eritreans in their 60s and 70s, fed into the 1960s nascent Eritrean secessionist nationalism, absent hitherto. So, these grievances, which are still fresh, they are still fresh in Eritreans in their 60s and 70s. It's still there. Different levels, I believe, depending who you talk to. Some are less aggressive, less emotional than others, I would say, and from my experience. It fed into the 1960s nascent, this newborn Eritrean secessionist nationalism. We'll end it there. So when Dr. Alemseged says she feminized the book to further berate it, she made it sound like a feminine being. She gave it a feminine gender. Let's see what the footnote is regarding that, in case there's anything he is letting us know. We go through a lot of footnotes, don't we? The book is full of the journal is full of footnotes. It's all with evidence. Yeah, so the information of so her, further berating it as a berating strategy, the patriarchal trans-metop society feminizes men and objects. So in order to put something down, if I'm not mistaken, I think I've heard this even when people talk, to berate it, to put it down, if I understand correctly, as a strategy, the patriarchal trans-metop society, so the society which is, if I'm not mistaken, between Tigray and Eritrea, feminize men and objects. They feminize them to further, to berate something, to put it down. They feminize it. I think I know what he's talking about. It's something in the language. They feminize it. Next time, when we next meet, of course, we're not literally in front of each other, but when we next see each other, or when we, you know what I mean. We're going to talk about, so we're going to continue talking about the post-federal era, when the federation was annulled, when it was canceled. We're going to further talk about what situations took place. This is a very interesting article. Those of you who are following just might agree. Until we meet again, I wish you all the best. God bless you. Thanks for watching. Keep safe wherever you are. Have a beautiful day, beautiful evening, beautiful morning, beautiful whatever time it is. Keep safe. Peace be with you.